So when you think about that privilege, you think about that access, you have these non-Indigenous peoples going to these Indigenous communities, and then because they learn something over there is a word for those kind of people that do that kind of thing, they then take that and go, oh, that's what they're doing over there too, so let's just apply that. Instead of saying, hi, local Indigenous community, may we ask how you identify yourselves? What a concept. So I get a little flustered when I see that word, Native American shaman, because our communities have doctors, our communities have healers, our communities have medicine people, our communities have our two-spirited community, which two-spirit is a way to identify those who bring that balance to the masculine and feminine that doesn't belong on the binary. Well, it's not of polarized of the binary, it's a plane, it's an existence, but it's also a spiritual sacred connection. So some community members may say, oh, that's just the Native American version of the LGBTQ community. And not fully. There's a little bit more responsibility in it.
Sometimes I see people say like, oh, this kind of queer concept is very westernized, and this is not from Africa, this is not true in Asia. But we know that in Asia, in Africa, in many cultures, we have queer people. So I just think that being a queer people is not the same in every culture, but you cannot invisibilize these people. So it's not because the winners of what is a traditional culture are not queer that there are not queer people there. So we have to really balance that.
So in this training that we'll do, that I helped to develop a long time ago, there's a section on it where there's, where we kind of break down what gender is and all these things. But then there's a section where people, say what these different things are in their own language. But again, those sayings in that language, they're usually like bad words, and it's things that you wouldn't say. My take on it is that it is colonialism that made those words bad. That's my hypothesis.
When you start to see how you are a white privileged person, and I can tell you, being an educated and fairly well-off black person, I'm moving around with white privilege too, right? I have a sense of entitlement, for sure, that I can travel the world and do this work and speak at these conferences, which is the kind of evolution of, to me, the white privilege thing, right? Which is basically just that I think now white privilege is almost equated to consumerism, capitalism / democracy, right? Which has been exported all over the world. So as an American person, regardless of your color, to some degree, you're kind of moving through the world on this magic carpet of white privilege. If you are someone that goes to, South America and studies for 3 or 4 weeks with a shaman, and you come back, and you're suddenly wearing shamanic outfit, Shipibo clothing and jewelry and speaking the language, and you decide you're going to have your friends over and you're doing Ikaro, okay, that's definitely appropriation, right? Yeah, you're really appropriating something that you don't have either permission to use or have earned, let's say, the right to use. That's very different than someone who is really sincerely interested in, we call it the medicine path, right? You've been really turned on by, let's say, ayahuasca. You want to bring this to your family, your friends, or to the world in general, and you do your homework. You go, you sit, you study, and at some point, typically is what happens in these traditions with indigenous people, the curandero, the healer they're working with, will say, yeah, I think you can lead ceremony, you have permission, That's not appropriation, right? That's literally what I would just call adaptation or evolution.
I've had to inspect that conversation around appropriation in my own practices. And what I consistently keep seeing in all of the plant teachers is that the situation on planet Earth right now is so dire that it needs more people serving the medicine, period. Now, how do I feel specifically about white neo-shaman doing the work? if you have not done your ancestral karma cleansing work around the global genocide of black and brown people, and you are serving the medicine, that is absolutely wrong. That is, it's horrible. It is causing harm again.
And I am very afraid of the extractive dimension of capitalism as it gets involved with psychedelics, not just in terms of extracting the materials, but frankly, the extraction of experience. I mean, we got to remember that like all that data is going in there, and what they're getting is a much finer picture of the far out edges of the human mind and how it operates. And that becomes an object of study. It becomes something that moves, through for-profit companies. People are looking into a future when things are going to become very stressful. People are going to be looking for escapes. There's going to be drugs or drug technology combinations that allow, control systems to stimulate and kind of cage human consciousness and human experience. So that's a whole other kind of dimension, and in some sense we're just seeing the beginning of some of those deeper and to some degree darker implications of the psychedelic renaissance.